Hello, this is Johnny Henson, Professor Poole with Billiard University out of Phoenix, Arizona. Today I'm going to talk to you about the different parts of the stroke that have to be done correctly in order for you to have a great stroke or take your game to the next level. Now, what I do is a lot of time, I put on, let's say, stroke workshops. I go to locations and I basically set up my camera and I have a simple shooting drill that I have students do. These are not paying students; these are just people that come to the workshop. And what I do is I videotape them, and then we briefly go over all the different parts of the stroke that need improvement, and then usually I grade them and I give them a piece of paper like this that grades that grades their stroke, and it shows all the different parts that need to be improved. And so basically, with that being said, a lot of times when students first come to me, and I'm honest and I grade them accurately, their strokes are probably less than 25% correct. Usually, if anybody stroke is greater than 25% correct, usually that person has already had some sort of lessons from somebody, even if it would be an amateur instructor, not a professional, but somebody that saw certain flaws in their game and actually helped them correct them. But the average person, when they come to a workshop, or my initial lesson that I give students is absolutely free of charge with no obligation. So when they come to the initial lessons, I videotape them, I grade their stroke, and then then what we do is we go over the list of the things they need to do, the parts of the stroke, and I actually help improve those. And then we videotape again, and then I can show them that they've improved on many other areas. A lot of times, initial student will come in and maybe their stroke is, let's say, 20% correct. Maybe sometimes less than that. And let's say that at the end of the 2 hour of the first lesson I give them, let's say that their stroke is, let's say, 50% correct. Well, then they can already see a dramatic improvement just in the first 2 hours. And so then, a lot of them do want to have ongoing lessons from that point on, but it's not an obligation. When I give a lesson, basically, it's absolutely free of charge with no obligation, with no strings attached, because I just want to encourage all players out there to at least have an initial lesson and give professional instruction a chance. So, but anyway, getting back on task, I'm going to cover some of the areas that your stroke has to have in order for it to be a high quality stroke. This is most of these things. If you grade it out a professional, most of professionals from shot to shot to shot are going to be probably in the 90 percentile range from shot to shot to shot, which is hard to do. You got to be very consistent when you're doing that. Okay. So first thing is like bridge length. Okay, that means where you're putting your hand on your stick every time. Your stroke length means how far you're drawing it back every time. Most players, they don't put their bridge hand on the same spot consistently, and they definitely don't draw their cue stick back consistently. Well, that affects their ball placement, their spin, their draw, cue ball placement. I mean, there's just so many things it affects when you do that, and that are not going to help your game. A loose grip, a lot of players are, have a kind of a death grip on their stick. To make a long story short, if you're grabbing your stick tighter or looser from shot to shot to shot, your stick's going from, let's say, a 19 ounce to a 21 to a 28 to a 30 something to back to an 18. Because when you grab a hold of the stick tighter, then you're actually changing the weight of the cue, because the weight of your hand is connected to that. So a loose grip also affects, if you show me a player who can't hardly draw the ball, has trouble with speed control, on and on and on. A lot of it is affected by tight grip. There's many other reasons why not to have a tight grip too, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. Yeah, a lot of people, they have their stick up in the air. Sometimes I watched a player the other day when I was giving a lesson. He's playing on the table next to me, and the guy probably had his stick up off the table a foot. I mean, he looked like he was doing a jump shot on every shot. I mean, he looked like, I mean, I could do a jump shot from the angle he was at. So anyway, so that's a major flaw, you know. Basically, a lot of players have very poor bridges. Sometimes they don't know how to make a bridge. Sometimes their bridge is kind of not really solid. And so I do spend a lot of time when I'm teaching students to try to get them to have a lot better bridge. Um, Basically, a pendulum means that, you know, like your back arm really needs to be making like a 90-degree angle when you're making contact with the cue ball. So therefore, you know, most players do not do that without training. Most professionals all do it, and that's because they've been trained. Okay. Um, Cue ball address is very similar to the pendulum. There's a lot of players that don't address their cue ball properly, and so therefore, when they think they're going to do a stop shot, they end up doing a draw, or maybe when they're trying to draw the ball, they airmail the cue ball over the ball, or maybe off the table, and a lot of that is flawed because they have a very poor cue ball address. Okay. Um, Eye patterns are huge. I call eye patterns mental patterns. And basically, when I train a student, I train them to really only have their mind on one task at a time. A lot of people, you know, they're moving their cue back and forth, and they're looking up and down with their eyes, and they're trying to figure out if this is the right shot or if they're cutting in enough. I mean, their mind's on like about 15 different things at the same time. So it's no wonder that their game is not all that good. So eye patterns, or what I call mental patterns, are very, very crucial for having a good stroke. Um, the Having a slow backstroke is really huge. Most players, it's a flaw for a lot of players, not all players, but most players. They jerk their cue stick back real quick, and so they're engaging their tricep at the same time they're trying to actually go forward with their bicep. So the two muscles are actually working against each other. These players usually have very poor cue ball control. They usually have a very poor speed control. Many other flaws because of this. In fact, if they do it quick enough, it can even cause body motion or body movement, which is always going to make you very inconsistent, and it's going to really keep you from ever really taking your game to a high level. Okay, and a lot of players don't follow through. You know, if you watch people like at a local pool hall. You know, there's a lot of people that kind of poke at the cue ball or jab at the cue ball. They don't have a smooth follow through. You know, if you think about, let's say, an analogy of golf, you know, like, you watch a really, really good golfer, you know, he has a really slow and deliberate backstroke, and then he basically follows all the way through the hit zone, and he finishes, you know, almost mirror image shot after shot after shot. And so basically what we need to do in pool is you got to be able to not only take the cue stick back properly, but you also have to turn around and finish the shot. And freezing, or what I'm calling freezing after the shot, is something most players don't do at all. But that's the reason most players never learn from every shot that they shoot. So, you know, most professional pool players, you know, they stay down at least for a couple of seconds after each shot, because if it was a good shot, they want to know it was a good shot. But if it was a bad shot, they got to learn from that shot so they don't do it again. So I always tell people, if you're shooting more than one bad shot in a row, it's probably because you're not standing down on the table and learning anything, like, you know, after the last shot. So anyway, this is an example of some of the things that I cover in my stroke workshops. You know, I'm going to be doing those throughout the Phoenix area at different locations. Any of you that hear about that, you know, my name is Johnny Henson. I have you basically just bring your stick. I put a camera on you. I videotape you doing a series of about 6 shots at different speeds. And then basically I we watch that film after I educate you on the different areas. And, I tell people, I truly expect most players to score probably around 20% correct, and some of them maybe 25. Every once in a while, you'll run into one that's a little higher than that. But the main thing is keep in mind, knowing what's wrong and knowing that it needs to be corrected is a huge step toward correcting it. Because a lot of people, they don't know what number one, they don't know what's important, and number two is they don't know that they're doing it wrong. So even when I do a stroke clinic, I think it really helps a lot of players open up their eyes to not only all the different parts of a perfect stroke, but also all the different areas that you need to improve on to help your stroke and take your game to another level. So anyway, my name is Johnny Henson. I'm out of Phoenix, Arizona. If you live in the Phoenix area or you're ever traveling here and you want a free initial lesson with me, just contact me, and we'll get together. I'll videotape you and we'll go over some stuff, and I'll videotape you again, and you can see all the different areas that you can improve on. And then if you want an ongoing lesson after that, then that's fine. But if you just want the initial lesson with me, that's fine too. So anything I can do to help you with your game, you let me know. And you have a nice day, and good luck, and good shooting.